Okay, so I'm going to hit play. We'll look at the hack squat, and then we'll go over the setup and execution after. All right, so let's just start over from the beginning and see about this whole foot position thing. So there's not much to this machine. There's only one thing that you need to take care of, and that is your foot position. That's it. And so the first thing I'll say is if your hack squat, so if you look at this hack squat back here, this foot plate is in a fixed position. I cannot move this foot plate down or up. However, on the machine that I'm using, and the reason I'm using this one, is that this does have a modifiable foot position. If it does, I want you guys to move that position all the way down. What that's going to do is it's essentially going to mimic having a heel elevated, and it's going to allow you to get more depth without your heels popping up. And so for me, I have that foot position all the way down. If your hack squat doesn't, most will not have that ability. That's okay, no big deal. So what I want you guys to do in terms of how high your feet should be, here's what I want you to think about. The goal is to get full knee flexion, which what that means is your calf touching your hamstring, just like I have here, right? And so your goal is to use the lowest foot position where you can achieve this without your heels popping up. So let's look at this position real quick. If I were to push my heels back even further, I would not be able to keep my heel down. Now that might create more knee flexion, but I do not want my heel to pop up, so that's a no-go. If I kick my foot higher, what I do is I decrease knee flexion, I increase this angle, and that takes the pressure off the quads and puts it a little bit more onto the glutes. We want this to be as quad-centric as possible. So you want to use the lowest foot position that allows you to achieve this full knee flexion, which is your calf touching your hamstring, while keeping your heels down. And so that might take a couple of tries. And you might not have your foot position in the same place as somebody else who sends a form video. It's going to be particular to the machine, to you, to your ankle mobility, to your hip and knee mobility. And so it might look different for other people. So if you see me giving a certain cue to somebody else, it might not apply to you. Your goal is to find the lowest foot position where you can achieve this full knee flexion position where your calf touches your hamstring without your heel popping up. Now, the last thing to go over with this one is when do you stop the movement? Because sometimes you could go lower. And so what I'd like you to watch is I'd like you to watch my knees. There will come a point in the movement where if I continue going lower, my knees are going to start to travel back towards my body. It actually happens in this set, but it happens such a minute amount, I'm not so worried about it. And so watch, well, I'll pause it. Let's watch. My knees are going forward, right? They're going forward, going forward, going forward, going forward. And then from like this point on, they're traveling back. Now it's super subtle. You can see them move towards my body. It's not so much that I'm worried about it, but you guys will find that if you go super, super deep, that your knees might actually travel back towards your body. Again, what that is taking pressure off the quads, putting it onto the glutes and the adductors. And so we do not want that. So you will stop this movement before your knees travel backwards. Great. As far as should your toes be pointed out or should they be pointed straight, they should be pointed mostly straight, but a little bit out is totally fine. Okay? Something like shoulder width or just inside shoulder width is going to work really great with your toes at maybe a little bit externally rotated, but not too much. So quick recap, you're going to set up with this, before we start that, quick recap, if you can move the foot plate down, do it. If you can't, no big deal. Your goal will be to use the lowest foot position where you can achieve full knee flexion, which is right here where your calf touches your hamstring. The lowest foot position you can use where you get full knee flexion without your heels popping up. And last, you're going to stop before your knees travel back towards your body. Now let's watch a couple reps and let's just take a look at that like knee traveling back towards the body. If you watch super closely, you can see at that very last second, the knee just starts to travel back. For me, that's something I can remember going forward, but it's really not a big deal if it's only happening this much. It's just something we don't want to happen a ton. All right. Other than that, the hack squat is pretty much like a leg press in the sense where you're just it's a set it and forget it. You get in and you let it rip. There's not too much going on here. So send some more videos. I'm happy to give my 2 cents.